It was not a feel-good passage. Yeah, well said. Well said. It's not a feel-good passage for a preacher either. I just kind of mused to myself, why was Jesus such a downer? And those are some of the harshest words we find anywhere in the Gospels, maybe even in the whole of the New Testament. I've come to bring fire on earth. I've come to bring division. I've come to split families apart. I've come to set parents against children and children against parents. Imagine a presidential candidate using that as a theme for the campaign, huh? Now you understand. You know, I get some of that stuff on my Facebook feeds. I don't need that on Sunday morning. Jesus. Really? I much prefer the William Sloane Coffin quote that you read, who obviously once served at the Riverside Church in New York City. He says it's sometimes hard to believe that love outlasts sarcasm and put-downs and misunderstanding and vanity and thoughtlessness. And love seeks truth, but fear seeks safety. I don't need to ask for a show of hands which of those two passages speak to you most dearly. Talk about divided highways, divided lives, a divided nation. I need, for my own benefit, to lighten this up a little bit. I hope you'll understand. Lizzie had to make funeral arrangements for her husband Clarence's death. Clarence died in old age, and it was a marriage that somehow lasted for 60 turbulent years. Lizzie was long-suffering. She bore the pain and the brunt and the consequences of Clarence's bad behavior and bad disposition, and everyone in that small country town in Podunk, pick a state, knew what was going on. Lizzie met with the funeral director in that small country town, and she gave him a piece of paper on which she had written a rather lengthy obituary. And the funeral director read it graciously, and he handed it back to her, and he said, "Lizzie, you've written a beautiful tribute, but we all know that Clarence was a son of a gun and treated you bad, especially when he drank too much, swore too much. You endured a lot. You didn't deserve that treatment." Now, this is a lovely obituary, but I need to tell you, the newspaper charges $2 a word, and you've written about 200 words here, maybe 250 words, and that's over $400. Everybody here knows that you can't afford $400. But there's some good news. The newspaper will print an obituary for free if it's 10 words or less. Lizzie thought about that. "Okay," she said. "Free? Really? I think I can do that." She holds up her hands, counts her fingers. "Clarence, funeral, First Church, Friday, noon, lunch." Funeral director says, "Okay, that's 7 words. You got 3 more. It's free." She thinks about it some more. "Okay, one more time. Clarence, funeral, First Church, Friday, noon, lunch. Buick for sale." I'm not dissing Buicks. Don't send me. Regarding what we heard from the gospel this morning and from the contemporary reading, I can't speak for any of you. I can only speak for myself, and I'm sometimes a divided highway, believe me. And I need to make what Jesus says in this disturbing passage in the 12th chapter of Luke's gospel. I need to make it rather personal. So I hope you will indulge me. And it goes something like this. If I worship control, compassion looks like weakness. If I worship white privilege, all other races look inferior. If I worship sexism, women should know their place. If I worship authoritarianism, cruelty towards my perceived enemies looks to me like righteous judgment. If I worship unbridled power, tyrants and bullies, whether in White Houses or palatial palaces, look like saviors. If I worship my own self-preservation, giving myself away looks like an act of a fool, and nobody wants to look like a fool. If I worship at the altar of patriarchy, women, first and foremost, will always be defined in their relationship to men. If I desire ours to be a Christian nation and a Christian nation only, then all other faith traditions don't deserve my respect. If I perceive that all lives matter, that every life matters, then collecting donations, or I should say, if I believe not all lives matter, collecting donations of food in the friendship hall is a waste of time for a bunch of do-gooders. If I hold to the belief that being heterosexual follows the laws of nature, then all other expressions and ways of being become a perversion. If I profess Christianity is the only way to get to the heart of God, then all other religions and faith expressions don't need my respect. If I contend that a bloated prison system is the best way to punish the incarcerated, I don't need to concern myself with more humanitarian ways to rehabilitate. If I convince myself that I've maneuvered through life on my own without a helping hand, then everyone else is weak if they can't do the same. And if I insist that a church needs to exist to feed my needs, why should I bother taking a long, prayerful look at my checkbook? It's not so much the divided highways that Jesus causes as much as the divisions that intersect in me. Whenever I try to grasp the top of the pyramid. About 20 years ago, I came across an article that I've kept all that time. It was authored by a minister in New York City named R. Maurice Boyd, B-O-Y-D, R. Maurice Boyd. And he entitled his essay on Dreams to Tell. Dreams to Tell. And if you find it as stirring as I did, I'd be pleased to hand you a copy. I think it's so good I made about 30 copies, and I'll hold them out at the door as you exit the sanctuary this morning. Here's what he said. If what you're after is power, you had better forget about love, because it's very difficult to be after both. If you put self at the center, you had better be prepared to find your outer limits there, and that can be very lonely. If you believe only in justice and not in mercy, you'd better not make any mistakes. If you're a gossip, don't look for confidences. If you believe life is a rat race, you mustn't hope to find any dignity in it. If your basic stance is confrontation, don't expect people to knock on your door when what they need is tenderness. If you're ruthless on the way up, don't look for sympathy on the way down. If you never forgive, you must never offend. If your work is life, you had better keep one eye on your relationships. If you are a materialist, don't consult us gurus about spiritual values. There is little we have to say to you, and even less that you will understand. If you believe that life is purely quantitative, you'd better keep your averages up. If you spread yourself thin, don't ever expect to go deep. And if you move in the fast lane, don't give your sights on anything that takes time. And finally, if you decide to live by the sword, then by God, I guess you'd better carry one. Though I fail far more often than I exceed, I do strive to live by those words. So, thanks for making this church what it has been. Thanks for making it what it is today, and thanks for making it what it shall be in the future.